Welcome back, everybody, to Hoops HD. It
Woo!
is Wednesday, February 28th, and it is, how about this? It is the season finale of our Under the Radar podcasts.
It's hard
Uh,
to
What?
believe. Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
we'll talk about it at the end of the show. This does not mean we're done by
I'm
any means.
protesting.
Yeah.
Protesting.
Well, how
Well,
about we
well,
do
as
a,
of Sunday, we've got weekly video note or nightly video
Nightly,
notebooks.
nightly,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're not going to have less under the radar. We're going to have more under the radar beginning Sunday night. But our regular
Yeah.
under the radar shows. This is our finale. I'm your host Chad Sherwood. David Dorman to my side. Rocco Miller back with us again from Bracketeer.org, and David Griggs to his side. John Salika might be jumping in here. In fact, he's
John
jumping in
Saliki.
just as we
Yeah.
record this. He's jumping in. How about that for timing?
All right.
Uh, this is our under the radar show, and Griggs, why don't you let anybody who is joining us for the first time and the last time this season let them know what under the radar means.
Well, in layman's terms, the simplest definition is that it's the 22 conferences that usually only get one bid. There's no rule that says they can only get one. In fact, there's probably a couple we're going to talk about that we think could get more than one, but that's it. So it's not the Power Five conferences, and which is the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, SEC, and Pac 12, at least for another couple weeks. And it's not the other five regular multi-bid leagues, which is the Big East, the Atlantic 10, at least most years, the American, the West Coast Conference, and the Mountain West. It's everybody else. It's the other
Everybody
22.
else, yes. Any team that's in the top 25, also not under the radar, but we do not have any of those, and it does not look like we're going to get any of those, even though there's a couple polls left for the rest of the season at least. But what we like to do on these shows, I guess, is start off with a feature conference and then go through the rest of the leagues in alphabetical order. Well, I remember we need to pick a feature conference about 5 minutes ago. Took a look at about the six or seven we haven't done yet this season, and I thought it was a clear winner as to who should be the feature conference
This is the
for
headline feature
tonight.
conference. Yeah.
It's the
That's
headline feature.
DePaul and Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
Not quite. It is actually a conference that look at this five teams within one game of each other in the loss column now after a complete collapse over the past couple of weeks by Quinnipiac. It's the Metro Atlantic Conference that has gone from a Quinnipiac runs away with the league to literally a five-team battle now for the league regular season title with still about a week and a half left to go. Three or four, even four games left for a few of these teams before we get to the conference tournament. But um, I think the first question, Rocco, is what happened to this Quinnipiac team that was looking so good up until about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they ran into a few buzzsaws, a couple road losses. Mount St. Mary's and Ryder got them in road games. Fairfield came into their building, and so did Niagara for the 4-game losing streak. At the time, Niagara had an 8-game road winning streak, so just a really good road team. Kind of random there because they don't play as well at home. And Fairfield, I think, has the most talent in the league. Nothing against Quinnipiac, but they're finally hitting their stride. They had injuries early and caught them in a really good game last Friday. So the Stags, I just don't think Quinnipiac, even though they had the big lead, talent wise or anything else, had that big of a margin over everyone, and the schedule got a little bit harder for them.
And that's pretty evident now, to Rocco's point. And how about Fairfield? Is it sort of in a tournament setting? Are they the ones looking the best to win this, especially with the number one seed? I kind of think they are.
Yeah, I think it's them. Just from an offensive standpoint, they're the most potent. There's Power Six transfers that came down, led by Goodine. He's just phenomenal. But I would look out for Marist, mainly because Marist has, if you just look at the last month, they have a top 40 defense nationally. They're kind of like the Little Rock of this league. And John Dunn, he's done it time and time again. Remember last year, Marist was the 10 seed, went all the way to the championship and lost to St. Peter's, or they played St. Peter's in the championship, I believe. So, or sorry, that was the semifinal. We had that
Yeah, it
10
was
versus
semifinal
11.
game.
Yeah, yeah,
10
yeah.
versus 11
So,
semifinal. That was crazy last year.
Yeah.
yeah, and Marist has a lot of those guys back, and they've really gotten to a point in the season where that defense is ironclad. So, again, that's super important in conference tournament play.
And Stalika, I know you just jumped in here, but mentioned that 10 versus 11 semifinal. This is a conference tournament that historically has been pretty wild with seeds coming out of the way bottom to win this thing or make it to the finals year after year.
Well, historically, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw that this year, especially with usual suspects like Iona and Siena at the bottom half of the table.
Bottom of the table there, yeah. Uh, and Dorman, here's the upcoming schedule here.
Yep.
Quinnipiac is on the road. Fairfield at Marison, a huge one here on Friday night. We got a full slate of Friday, Sunday games here. There could be a lot of good ones in here, actually.
Yeah, the big one, I agree with you. Friday night, Fairfield at Marist. Look for the winner there to have probably the best and greatest momentum going into the conference tournament. To me, that's the big one this weekend, or at least for Friday night. We'll see how everything shakes out there. But that game at Marist Friday should be fantastic.
And the other thing I throw out there, Niagara sitting there almost quietly at 10-6, but they've got the easiest schedule here for this week. They could find a way
Yeah.
to sneak into that 1 or the 2 seed just because of what's left in their schedule compared to some of these other teams. Uh,
Yeah, Greg
Ryder and
Paulus is
Marison.
the coach. Greg Paulus is the coach there. He's done a really nice job. They've
Mhm.
come on strong the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I agree with you. Watch out for Niagara.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is 5 of the 6 Niagara losses in league are at home. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for Niagara, they're at home this week.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this was done. I mean, this isn't the tournament's at a predetermined site, but good on Niagara in case it wasn't like avoiding home court advantage the way that they have.
Exactly.
Fairfield also is a bit of an interesting story in that their head coach, they lost their head coach, I think was it in September or October, and Chris Casey, who had long time been at Niagara for quite a while actually, so he knows the league. He took over and has had more success this year than he ever did at Niagara, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's earned the job. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's official yet, but it should be.
yeah, I really hope he does get that interim tag going if it's not going yet. Let's jump over to the rest of the conferences in alphabetical order here. Dorman, let me start with you in the America East, where it's all but over here with Vermont after their win at Albany and the win over Bryant this week. It's 2 games up now on Lowell.
It's over, but Vermont is not dominating this conference like they have in years past. They usually just destroy everyone in their path, but it has not been this way. I know they beat Albany last week by 14, but they've struggled. They've had some issues here, and some of those 13 wins in conference were very, very close, whether they were home or away. So I don't think this is a done, sealed, signed, and delivered, that this is Vermont's conference championship to win now. The fact that they have the top seed is very, very important because the conference tournament does now go through Burlington, which means Vermont's at home every step that they're involved in here. So it's tough to beat Vermont at home, but they haven't been as dominant in years past. Look for some teams like Lowell, even maybe Maine or New Hampshire to sneak up on them.
Yeah, and even though the final scores look pretty big from this week, both those games were close for a while.
Yeah.
They were both late pullaways by Vermont this week. But Salika, the upcoming schedule here, Vermont does have a final test against Lowell coming here on Saturday, while Lowell before that has to host Bryant. So it's a tough, big week for Lowell, even though it's not going to. They probably have no shot at actually catching all the way up to Vermont. I don't see Vermont losing 2 games here.
It's probably going to be more of a tune-up for Vermont. I'm also paying attention to the bottom because we've got 3 teams basically fighting for 2 spots down here in NJIT. A tough week after just wasn't too long ago they had beaten both Vermont and UMass Lowell to get back into the picture, but now suddenly they have work to do just to sneak back into the top 8.
Yeah, and that is those games there all the way through Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be the regular season finale in this conference. So that is the rest of the conference schedule up there on the screen. But let's keep things rolling here over to the A-Sun Conference, where Rocco, Eastern Kentucky, they got a couple tests as well, but they did find a way to go 2-0 this week and are sitting there. I don't know if they've quite locked up the 1 seed, but they're almost there.
Almost there. And they're playing as we speak with Austin P.
And
It was
they're
close.
behind. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
they are.
is. It's been seesawing back and forth at the time we're recording this, not to interrupt you, Marco. 63-58, Austin P, 9 minutes to go. I believe EKU clinches if they win this.
They do. And
Yeah.
they needed a Jacksonville win. Could have helped too, but I believe Stetson already beat Jacksonville tonight.
Yes, they did.
So it could come down to the final day here. as there are scenarios still with Stetson to win. Shout out to Nick Lorenzen over who runs Mid Major Madness. He put all the ASUN scenarios on a spreadsheet today. So check that out if you missed it. It'll still be relevant this weekend. There's like hundreds of them. But it's important because, as you guys know, only the top 10 make it. The bottom 2 are out. So there's some high pressure at the bottom. I know Bellarmine is in a high pressure game right now. I think they're not looking good. They were down 10 last I saw, and Central Arkansas is up against it as well. So a lot to track here in the ASUN.
Okay. In fact, we can possibly repopulate the screen right here real quick. If it comes up here, there it is. Lipscomb just beat Bellarmine. It just went final as we're recording this. So Bellarmine looks like they probably going to be the 1-2 teams left out, but heck of a battle we could have here between Jacksonville and Central Arkansas for that final, that 10th spot, I guess. With Jacksonville hosting Gulf Coast and Central Arkansas hosting North Alabama here on Friday night, Griggs.
Yeah. That's big for the final spot. The other game that
will decide. This is the end of the regular season here Friday night as well.
Yeah, that is the end of the regular season there Friday night. So sort of a pseudo elimination game, you could say. This Eastern Kentucky at Lipscomb game is interesting, and I say that because even if Eastern Kentucky clinches, Lipscomb and Stetson in a battle, and keep in mind, this is at campus sites. That could determine who hosts the semifinal game, which is a huge advantage. So, like, something to kind of keep an eye on is those two, Lipscomb and Stetson. Lipscomb's been kind of disappointing. I still think I'm going to die on this hill, aren't I? That in a tournament setting, they're the best team, but perhaps not in a campus site format.
Yeah, you have to win 2 road games if they're the 3 seed in all likelihood, assuming that Stetson and Eastern Kentucky do make it through their opening round games.
Yeah.
Salika, let me go over to you here as we jump over to the Big Sky Conference, where Eastern Washington. What did they do on Saturday? If you want to let everybody know.
They won the Nokoe Woo Cup to solidify their position in first place.
A win over Northern Colorado, who's now in a tie with Montana for second place. So despite the loss to Northern Arizona earlier in the week, Eastern Washington, though, Dorman is still looking really good to win this regular season title here.
Yes, they are. I think they're one more win away, and it will be theirs. This conference tournament is going to be held in Boise, Idaho. All 10 teams will get to go to Boise, Idaho. I look for I like Eastern Washington going in as the favorite, but I wouldn't count out some of these other teams right behind them. One, Weber State, we know all about their high-flying offense. Montana, always tough in the conference tournament. So Eastern Washington will go in as the favorite, but plenty of competition will go on here in Boise.
Yeah. Well, there's also going to be a lot of motivation on Eastern Washington's end. Let's not forget they completely collapsed at the end of the season last year, and not surprisingly were upset early in the conference tournament. I would not expect the same thing to happen to the Eagles this year.
Yeah, and Weber State, they keep having these head-scratching losses. The loss at Idaho State over the weekend. I would say it's kind of in the middle of the pack, but you should win that game. I just got to throw this out there. Northern Arizona, after they beat Eastern Washington on Thursday, lost at home to Idaho. I just, one of those. How does that happen, Griggs? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and it seems like that we've been having an epidemic of how does that happen all across the college basketball landscape this last week and a half.
Pretty much. Let's take a look at. Here's the upcoming schedule here in the Big Sky. Eastern Washington's games. They will be tomorrow night. They'll be hosting Montana, then hosting Montana State, and at Sacramento State. Looking to try to finish off these guys here and wrap things up for the regular season title. But who are we going to next? Rocco, Big South Conference. As we record, this is just one finals, not even on the screen yet. Somehow, High Point tried to blow it against Winthrop, but did not, and they won in overtime here by 4 points.
It was a very impressive effort in which to try and blow it.
Yeah, first regular season title in 8 years, and they actually went on a 4-year stretch with 4 straight Big South championships from 2013 to 2016, and in all 4 of those years did not win the Big South tournament. So still looking, I believe, for that first D1 postseason NCAA tournament bid. They've been to the NIT twice due to the shared titles they had during that 4-year run. So just an incredible job by Coach Alan Huss, who came over from Creighton. Talked about him during the preseason show. They were my dark horse. They went all the way from dark horse to the bright horse. Doesn't always happen that way, but they've earned it. They got high major players in that starting five. They're very lengthy, very athletic. Matchup problem for several of the Big South. And I will say, this is probably the strongest, at least the deepest Big South we've seen in years. So for them to win it this year says even more, in my opinion.
And the other kind of fascinating story was this kind of the battle there for second place, though, where we talked about last week that Gardner-Webb was kind of almost screwed a little bit having that game moved to Thursday night against Radford. Didn't bother showing up for that, almost got lost by 16 points at home. But then turned around Saturday and went to Asheville and won the game. So both these teams, though, these Gardner-Webb and Asheville teams, are both teams you've got to really look at this conference tournament, though, because I think either one of them could steal this bid.
I agree.
And either one of them could also lose in their quarterfinal round game. That's the problem.
Yeah,
the tournament is at High Point in their beautiful stadium.
That's right. Yes, it is. So High Point's got the home court edge, and there's really not a team that has outstanding defense. In fact, the most interesting thing here is USC Upstate's going to be one of the worst seeds in the thing. I think they're going to be in the 8-9 game.
Yeah, they will.
And they've been playing the best defense in the last month. So who knows what's going to happen out there at High Point. But the Panthers have to feel good playing at home.
Upcoming games here, we have Winthrop at High Point. Like I said, hasn't quite gone final yet. We do have a Longwood Gardner-Webb game tomorrow night. And then there's the rest of the schedule there. High Point is going to be finishing off at Longwood here on Saturday. While Gardner-Webb is on the road at Winthrop, which is not an easy place to play either.
No, High Point won.
Gardner-Webb is at Winthrop on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ignore that. The scores have not quite populated yet. So, but yes, Winthrop did win at High Point. That says that game is tonight. Sleeka over in the Big West Conference. And how about UC San Diego?
God.
Yeah, UC San Diego probably caught Irvine at the right time right here. They get the nice win against the Anteaters in overtime on Saturday, and that was also following up a 12-point win at Riverside, which was only 2 days earlier. Unfortunately for the Tritons, they're not going to be able to win the conference tournament, even though they are still ineligible for one more year before they fully transition up to eligibility for the 24-25 season.
So they're not. So they're not in it at all.
UC San Diego is not eligible for the conference tournament at all. Cal Poly also in red because they've been eliminated from being able to make the conference tournament. Only the top 8, actually the top 9 teams in a way go. They've seen the standings there because the 9th place team will get the 8th seed and so far and move everyone up a spot with that. But
incrediing job by UC San Diego. Wasn't even in this conference. I mean, Eric Olson, the head coach there at San Diego. I mean, 13-3 in the Big West. This is not a pushover conference. There's very good basketball being played. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of good coaches. For San Diego to do this and be at the top of this Big West Conference when they couldn't even play in the tournament, I give a lot of credit to this team.
They're gonna get some hardwood if they can tie for first. Yeah.
And how about that, Rocco? That they can. I mean, they're not there yet. They still have, I believe, 4 more games to go, but that they can host a banner or get a trophy or whatever you get for a regular season title in the Big West.
They can, yeah. They finish with road games at Cal State Bakersfield and Northridge, host UC Davis and lowly Cal Poly to finish. Decent chance to run the table. They've been able to run the table everywhere except for that first UC Irvine game and road heartbreakers at Long Beach and Hawaii. So these 4 teams they're playing next, they've already beat once, and their offense is dynamite. Probably at least 2 of the all-conference players. Bryce Pope's been the hero several times. Hit that shot, a ridiculous shot to force the game to overtime in the Irvine win. And he's hit like 4 or 5 of those all year at least. And then Tate Jones as well. Man, that guy's such a presence. So they definitely have 2 all Big West players, and man. Just a great story down there.
And certainly
Northridge
Irvine.
is not going to be an easy opponent, though. Let's not forget, this is a team that also won at UCLA back in December.
Everyone wins at UCLA. but
Yeah.
but I just gonna say Irvine, they still got a home game against Long Beach, which is a big rivalry game for them.
Black
So
and blue bowl.
that's coming up
Yes.
this weekend. So don't assume that Irvine is going to win their last 4 games by any means either.
No. And the Fullerton road game at the end is always hard. That's the Orange County Bowl. So,
Yeah.
The Orange County Bowl. There's a new one for us.
yes.
Do you get a
Those
giant
two
bowl of
teams,
oranges?
when any of those 3 in the triangle play each other, it's all records out the window, fellas.
Yeah. Well,
But Northridge will be
Make it out
hosting
for each
both Irvine and San Diego this week. While we mentioned the Black and Blue game on Saturday as well. So those are the games to watch. We still have another week after this to go in the Big West at least. Over in CUSA, Rocco, College of Charleston.
that's the Coastal.
Oh,
That's
wow.
not CUSA.
Well, let's do Coastal then. Rocco, College of Charleston over in the Coastal. That it does come before CUSA alphabetically, doesn't it? Yep. Okay. Over in the Coastal. How about that? College of Charleston now up a couple of games as UNC Wilmington suffers another loss Monday night, double overtime to Campbell.
Yeah, they've lost to Campbell and Elon in the last week and a half. So the Seahawks are not dominating, that's for sure. They're letting teams inferior hang around, and that can happen in this league because you have weeks where you'll play teams closer to 300, and then you'll have other weeks where you play like a Delaware Drexel combo or a Hofstra combo with Towson, and you'll have to play much stiffer competition. So it's an interesting league to navigate, and the Seahawks are not doing a good job of that right now. I will give a little shout out. Charleston's red hot. Haven't lost a game all month, I believe. 7-0 in their last 7, and really, really clicking on all cylinders. Their win at Delaware the other night was unbelievable. I think they were 15 for 22 from deep. It was ridiculous. And this is the team that everybody was, because I had them at the Myrtle Beach, and they couldn't hit a 3 to save their lives. And that was the story of their first 6 weeks of the year. They took a handful of losses, and now they're just shooting lights out. So it's that whole shooter regression or progression type of data analysis that's really coming to fruition on the court. The other team I'll give a quick shout out to is Hofstra. Hofstra playing extremely well since January 18th. They are 10-2, and their only losses are a heartbreaker at Monmouth and a heartbreaker at Drexel. They've cruised past most everybody else, including a dominant win over a good Drexel team last Thursday.
Look at this Hofstra week, though. They're at Wilmington and at Charleston to end the regular season this week. So those are probably the 2 games to circle in this conference for this week are these 2 games.
I was teeing you up, Chad.
How about we get to CUSA now? Let me go over Dorman. Let me go over to you for CUSA, where we do have a first place tie still with La Tech and Sam Houston. And I know La Tech, as we record this, is up too late at Western Kentucky. A couple minutes left in that game. I don't know if Sam Houston's playing tonight or not. They might be off till tomorrow night.
Yeah, that would. I believe Sam Houston is tomorrow night.
Yes.
La Tech. I think these are the 2 best teams in the conference. They will all go to Huntsville, Alabama for the conference tournament. It is a regular bracket, so no one gets buys here any farther than anyone else besides the 8-9. I think Sam Houston really has a shot here. I've been kind of watching them from afar this year. They got a lot of talent. They're well coached, but Western Kentucky is very, very good. They have experience, and you can see it right there. Their adjusted tempo in the country, I believe, is one of the top 4 or 5 in the country. They really give the opposition many problems, and they have a lot of guys that can play different spots on the court, and it really gives the opposition a tough matchup there. So I think it'll be a fantastic Conference USA tournament. But I still think Sam Houston is the slightest of edges if I had to pick one.
Yeah, this Western Kentucky team, a lot of head scratchers, including this loss to Middle Tennessee over the weekend. But they seem to be there in these games. Meanwhile, Rocco, let me just quickly ask you about this Liberty team. That their metrics say they should be way up there. They're not. They lose at FIU last week. Does this team can this team put it together at the conference tournament and seal this bid out of something like a 6 seed or or a 5 seed?
Maybe, maybe only because I think La Tech's got the most talent, but I do think Liberty's system, if they are knocking down shots, like they did in the first 5-6 weeks of the year, they just haven't been consistent shooting. And let's be honest, look at the geography of this league. It's kind of hard to go to some of these places and win on the road, and it's hard, if you're a team built like Liberty, where it's all about shooting and spacing and having your legs. There's nights where Liberty just doesn't have it, and this league's killing them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they're talking about more expansion of Conference USA, but out more Texas teams and the like. So I don't know how that helps Liberty, and maybe I'd
Kennesaw
say
next year, too.
Kennesaw's gonna help them a little bit. That's at least a little bit closer than some of this other stuff.
Yeah, right.
There's the upcoming schedule. Yeah, there it is. Sam Houston's hosting. Actually, Sam Houston's off tomorrow as well. They're hosting Middle Tennessee on Saturday. That's going to be their next game.
And Chad, we have Delaware next year in this league too.
Yes, thank you. I forgot about that one. That will help actually. That's
yeah, that's gonna be their rival.
But sure. Let's put Delaware. Let's put a team in Delaware and a team in El Paso in the same conference. No big deal.
Delaware and Las Cruces is just amazing.
Yeah.
Stalico, let's get out of this conference. It drives me nuts. Over to the Horizon League. Oakland with a half-game lead right as we sit here right now.
Oakland had a chance on Sunday to clinch the regular season title, and unfortunately, Wright State put an abrupt halt to that party. That could also be a bit of an ominous sign, because that could also be a potential semifinal in the Horizon tournament should that follow the current bracket. Of course, the other thing you have to watch out for, NKU and Wright State is also a potential quarterfinal, and that could be a battle royale that could potentially wear out the winner of that team. So this is probably the black and blue rivalry in this conference here, and you put those teams 4 and 5, that's not going to be fun.
One of the more amazing things here, Griggs, when you look at the conference standings, there's 8 teams with winning conference records out of 11 teams.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do that. Just mathematically, it's hard to pull that off.
Yeah. And again, having Detroit Mercy and IUPUI in the same league makes it a little easier to pull it off, but it's still really difficult. But when you look at this league, you want to talk about a tournament that's a toss-up. Oakland has looked the best. I know that they didn't win the other night, but would it shock you if Cleveland State beat them? Would it shock you too much if Cleveland State won this whole tournament? I mean, I'm not picking them to win. I mean, I don't want you to say that, but what I am saying is that this is a toss-up from the quarterfinals on the whole tournament.
Wide open. Absolutely. Yeah. Wide open.
The one thing to throw out there is that the quarterfinals are on campus sites. So those 4 teams that get those top 4 seeds will have that small advantage. But if you look even tonight, 4 out of 5 games we're playing this league tonight were all the road teams winning.
The road teams won. Yeah,
there's not a huge home court advantage. I don't think a lot of these games in this conference. These teams know each other so well. I think.
Yeah, they do.
We do have games here coming up to end the regular season on Saturday, including Oakland hosting Detroit. That should wrap up the regular that number 1 seed fairly easily.
They don't like each other though.
Yeah. They don't.
I don't know what the tiebreaker is between Green Bay and Youngstown, but Green Bay would need a win at Milwaukee to tie Youngstown for the 2 seed. So we'll see.
Yeah. Another quick note, just a little bit of trivia here. IUPUI on Saturday playing their last ever game as IUPUI. They're being rebranded. They will be Indianapolis.
Except they will have a conference tournament game as well, Griggs. But it's their second to last game on Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
But it is their last regular season game as IUPUI, and I don't expect them to be able to beat the 7 seed in a 7-10 game or a 6-11 game, wherever they end up there.
What are they being branded as? IUI?
IU Indy.
IU Indy or IU Indianapolis or IU.
I think Stalik is right. It's going to be IU Indy.
What about IOU?
Yeah, I don't know. What about U Indy, the D2 team that keeps saying they're going to move up but never do?
I don't think they're moving up quite yet, so hopefully, because that would just make things way too just confusing.
It would be.
I don't know how we're surviving with three teams all called San Diego right now. So it's
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
think the real question is, what do you do with IUPUI Columbus, their branch campus?
you leave them in deep in NAI.
Yeah, you leave them where they are.
Dorman, Ivy League time. Penn and Dartmouth are both out of contention to make the Ivy Four, but we have a three-way tie still: Princeton, Cornell, and Yale, following Cornell's big win over Yale on Friday night, followed by their home loss to Brown on Saturday.
Oh.
Tough one. The
Jeez.
Columbia, the tournaments in Columbia. Columbia's now has is got a lot of work to do to get in their tournament on their home court. So it looks like the top seed, if Princeton or Cornell or Yale get it, they will be safe from playing essentially a road game there in the first round. But I've said it all year. This conference is absolutely fantastic. The numbers probably aren't going to get there for an at-large bid. Rocco probably knows that way better than I. But it's unfortunate because I think all three of these teams are very talented basketball clubs, and they all three could do damage in the NCAA tournament. I would love to see two of them get in. I don't see it happening, but I think this is one of the strongest Ivies I've probably have ever seen in my lifetime.
Rocco, I got to ask you. There's Princeton's profile up. Only the three losses. They're all tier two losses. It gives them 11-3 versus quad 1-3 in those meaningful games. Is there a case here if they win these last three regular season games and lose to a Yale or Cornell in the finals?
I think there is, and I think they're a nice backfall option. You know, if the bubble plays themselves out, we saw today Providence got smoked. Wake Forest lost last night. There's going to be more bubble teams on the power side that play themselves out than play themselves in. Historically, that's already starting to happen again this season. And where I landed on Monday was I had both Princeton and a Sunbelt team we'll talk about later in my first four out, mainly because there are so many teams at the power level, like an Ole Miss, who's just got a terrible non-conference strength of schedule. Cincinnati's like that as well, or more like a Texas A&M, where they just have sheer too many losses. So everybody's got these different reasons why they can't really be picked. And if the committee ends up there and there's still a couple spots left, Princeton's an easy answer. You know, you can defend it too because they're three tough. They didn't play a quad one game. All three of those losses are to top 100 net teams on the road, so they're quad 2A today. Ideally for the Tigers, it stays that way. Some of those teams keep bouncing in and out of that range, but they've beaten everybody else. They're perfect against everybody else, and they have 11 true road wins. They'll get another one or two down the stretch if they can close it out. And they went to the Sweet 16 last year. Like, how can the committee ignore that?
I love it. I'm there with you.
Yeah,
They have to win these last three. It includes the home games at Cornell and their rivals at Penn to end the regular season. So it's not there by any means yet.
Just put them in Dayton. We'll see what they do, you know?
I agree.
I don't know.
I'm
praying for the
I would
best.
have loved
Praying
to
for
have
the
put them
best.
in Dayton. They could have played Dayton.
There are actually two really
They would
big
have loved
games.
to play Dayton.
Yes, Dayton had an extra game after UNLV was canceled, and I think Princeton did too. They could still play.
Let's get it going.
Yeah.
There are two big games this weekend. Saturday's Cornell-Princeton game is a huge one, of course. Both for Princeton's at-large chances and for the regular season title there with Cornell trying to bounce back from that loss. But look at this one Friday night here, Harvard at Brown. This game may be the deciding game for that fourth seed in the Ivy Madness. So it's actually a game not involving those top three teams. That's probably the best game of the season so far in the Ivy League, not involving those three teams.
Yeah, we got to remember to highlight that one. Is Stalika?
We also have to highlight Saturday. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a normal Ivy year, this race for the 4 spot is always incredible. That's consistent about this Ivy 4 format. It typically comes down to the last day. So that you can see how hard Brown played last week. It's really cool that they narrow it down to 4 just because you have teams playing for their lives a couple weeks earlier than the rest of the country does.
Yeah.
Rocco, is this the strongest Ivy you recall?
Oh, absolutely, especially at the top.
Yeah,
I mean, you got multiple rosters here with NBA talent. This is it's a sign of the times because again, these types of kids, if they're talented enough, they're not lured away by NIL. Probably coming from families that don't need the money as much, but yeah, if they don't want to transfer, these are the types of schools you want to go to. And I think a lot of the power schools, Dorman, are going full on transfer portal, not really going after freshmen. And Yale, Princeton, Harvard are doing an amazing job getting freshmen and keeping them. I think that's the biggest difference.
Great point.
Let's jump over to the Mid-American Conference, Stalika, where
what a day they
what
had
a night
yesterday.
it was yesterday. It was Akron with a 1-game lead over Toledo and 2 over Central Michigan, and it still was because they all did the same exact thing, which was lose.
Yeah, but by the same token, even Central Michigan couldn't capitalize because they lost at home to Ball State. But if you look, another team that's suddenly been lying in the weeds, creeping up, it's the Ohio Bobcats. They're suddenly 2 games out of first place, and they're only 1 game back of second place now, thanks to their home win at the Convo against Akron.
This is a talented Ohio Bobcats team. This is somebody we really liked in the preseason that I think a lot of us have been disappointed in this year. But these last couple of weeks, as Stalika just alluded to, looking really good. And can they win this thing?
They could move up into potentially. I don't know if they can catch Akron, but if they can move up into that 2 seed.
The tournament. Yeah.
For they move into the 2 seed for the conference tournament and make that and make you don't have to play Akron till the finals. And the way this conference has been going, I don't know that Akron's going to make the finals, even though I think they're the best team in this conference. I think it's going to be a great event in Cleveland there.
Oh, yeah.
I just know even if Akron doesn't make it to the championship, Toledo will find a way to blow it.
Yeah.
Akron's schedule, they get Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan at home this week. They better go 2-0. That's all I got to say. Meanwhile, I guess if you want to track Ohio, they're going to be hosting Bowling Green and at Buffalo, so they should also probably go 2-0.
Yeah.
But I think another storyline we could potentially be looking at, there's also a chance we could have Ohio and Mother Miami in a 4-5 quarterfinal matchup. Those 2 teams are also going to meet at the end of the regular season, and it's not out of the woods. They could also meet a week later in Cleveland.
I got a better story for the quarterfinals for you, Slika. We may have Akron Kent State in the quarterfinals in the 1-8 game right now, too. So,
or a 2-7.
Or a 2-7 game.
Yeah.
Let's Griggs, over in the MEAC, where I think it's almost over at this point, the way Norfolk State's been playing lately.
I think so, too. They really had to sweat their 2 games this past week. And, the game against Coppin State in particular was really surprising to see them struggle as much as they did. But they did get the win, and, the 2-game lead over NC Central with just 3 games to go, they're running downhill as far as capturing first place in this conference. And a bit of an update, Eastern Kentucky has lost at Austin Peay, so the ASUN is still not settled yet.
Yes, and meanwhile, also Louisiana Tech back over in Conference USA did win that game at Western Kentucky as well. I think that just went final as well. So a couple games that went final as we're recording this. Live updates on tape delay.
Yeah, live on tape delay.
Real quick, the upcoming schedule here: Norfolk State this week is going to be at Delaware State, and then they are going to be hosting Eastern Shore as they look to get ready for the conference tournament, I guess. Probably the more interesting battles left are for the 2 seed there between NC Central, Howard, and almost surprising that South Carolina State's up there here at 7-4 in conference. They've come a long way from I think one of the worst teams. Oh, they almost got shut down. Got their athletic department shut down.
Almost shut down the school.
Yeah, so a little shout out to them.
Yeah.
Real quick, over to the Missouri Valley Conference, where as we record this, maybe we should come back to this in a few minutes, but as we record this, Drake is in the waning moments of overtime at UIC. But where do we want to go? Rocco, let me ask you about this. Indiana State, they did win tonight. They did win over the weekend. How close is this team to recovering from the bad losses and maybe getting back into that bubble picture again?
Yeah, I think they're right there. And it really, for them, because they don't have any big games left, they've played Bradley twice. They've played, even down to Northern Iowa and Belmont twice, and of course Drake. So they just got to hold serve the rest of the way. If they lose to Bradley or Drake in the final, maybe even in Northern Iowa, I think there could still be a place for them. I think the bigger story is what happens around them. So the way it shook out for me on Monday was, Providence was a little hairy with their 8-9 record outside of Q4. Wake Forest is horrible on the road, and New Mexico has their own issues. So I had Indiana State above those three. So if they were an at-large team, they would have been still in the first four, but they're kind of grouped in there. But the power conference teams, as you guys know, have so many more chances to play above Indiana State's level. I think Indiana State's just kind of set where they are unless they take another bad loss.
Yeah. On the other hand, Dorman, when you look at this Drake team, if they can't pull this game out here tonight, I don't know that there is any case left for them as they're about to suffer their third quad 3 loss here.
No, I agree with you. That'll be the end, and they'll have to go to St. Louis to the Valley Tournament and win the whole thing, and probably knock off Indiana State on the way, because this would just be devastating.
Yeah, and with this loss, Indiana State would be locked into the 1 seed. I believe Drake would probably be locked into the 2 or 3 seed at that point. I don't know quite all the tiebreakers. Yeah,
they'll play each other. 2 and 3 play each other, obviously, in the semis anyway. So not that big of a deal, just who you would play in the first round. But I do think actually Southern Illinois is probably better than the rest of the conference. So I would like to stay, away from Southern Illinois if you could. They'll be Indiana State's probably opponent in the semis there. But Bradley is tough. Bradley is tough to beat. If you're not on your game and Drake continues to keep playing that way, Bradley will knock you off, and they will have plenty of support there in St. Louis. The Bradley Braves travel well. So if Drake doesn't bring their A game, Bradley will find themselves in the finals.
Meanwhile,
if it happened to Drake,
if it goes far before the show, we'll discuss it. But right now, Drake and UIC are going to double overtime.
Wow.
And a fascinating game on Sunday to end the regular season. Bradley at Drake. So Drake still has another real tough one to go here.
Yeah, I think not beating UIC in regulation counts as a loss. Am I wrong about that, Rocco? You know these bracketing rules.
Can you repeat it real quick?
Not beating UIC in regulation counts as a loss.
Last I checked, they'll just mark it in gray if they win in overtime.
Well, that's a soft rule, not a hard rule.
Yeah,
that's right.
Good.
Stalika.
God, what is wrong with Drake?
Northeast Conference time here, Stalika, where Merrimack did not play over the weekend. They got the 1 win. They're sitting here a game up on Central Connecticut heading into the as we move towards the end of the regular season here.
Yeah, they get the 1 win at home against STFU, and then they actually lose half a game because Central Connecticut also gets a pair of road wins against Wagner and Sacred Heart. I keep expecting Sacred Heart to finally make a run themselves, but it doesn't seem to be they can't seem to really hit the gas at this point.
And I got to give a shout to Stonehill. Win over St. Francis on Saturday. We have a battle here with 2 games to go for Stonehill and 1 for St. Francis for which team gets eliminated and does not get that last spot in the conference tournament. Only 8 teams go. Stonehill making things interesting with their win over the weekend. Even though they're already red because they're ineligible for the postseason, they are still eligible for the Northeast Conference tournament. Rocco, here's some interesting games coming up. Merrimack has a pair of road games to try to clinch the regular season title, while Central Connecticut's going to be at home, including against Stonehill.
Yeah, Central Connecticut's got to mop up Stonehill. Nothing against the Stoners, but that should be a mismatch for the Blue Devils. And Merrimack at Sacred Heart, that seems like it could have some heat. I know Sacred Heart's got quite a few upperclassmen. Is that senior day?
Yeah,
that would be. Yes, these are the end. Yeah. This is the end of the regular season here on the screen.
There you go. So I don't think it's going to be easy for Merrimack this week. Both of those are pretty tough.
Right. Meanwhile, St. Francis has got to beat Lemoyne at home if they want to qualify for the NEC tournament. So keep an eye on that as well.
Those Dolphins are pesky.
But them Dolphins. I still haven't figured out why they're the Dolphins, though. How many Dolphins are there in the Syracuse area? Really?
the solemn shores of Syracuse.
We miss Howie. Not this conference, but
Where do we want to go? How about the OVC, Dorman? Where we have, well, I mean, we still have this massive tie at the top here with, I believe, Little Rock is in pace to get the 1 seed if this ends up this way.
I'll take your word for it. Little Rock probably playing the best basketball of all these teams. They're red hot lately, coming on strong. But yeah, we got a 4 team, almost a jam up at the top. Morehead State, Martin, Little Rock, all 12-4. Western Illinois is 1 game back. Morehead State got their footing back with a huge win over Western Illinois about a week ago after they had struggled for a few games. This is going to be craziness in Evansville, Indiana. This is another tournament that is wide open. There's many teams in the mix. The way Western Illinois played, I wouldn't count them out. But still, the most talented team and the best coach team. I'm going with Morehead State.
These 3 top teams all have 2 games left. None of them playing each other either.
No.
And they're all at home for both their last 2 games. So the question here, Griggs, really is, do any of these 3 teams get upset in these last 2 games here, hosting the likes of SEMO and Tennessee Tech and Tennessee State? Lindenwood in there.
But potentially Tennessee State. I still think that they're exceptionally talented. They don't always play up to their ceiling, but when they do, they're about as good as anybody in this league. As far as the other teams that you mentioned, no chance.
No chance there, huh? Western Illinois also at home for a pair of games. I don't know that they can catch up to the top 3 though, just because there's a lot to climb over there to take one of those top speeds. But this conference does give the double bye to those top 2 teams, so I think this is going to be a fascinating weekend again to see if anybody gets upset. Let's jump over here. What are we up to here? Stalika over in the Patriot League, where it's all over. Colgate is just starting to roll at this point.
We'll probably get into a little bit later.
Then what happened on Sunday? I'm sorry.
Colgate could be forgiven if they wanted to rest a few players or do quote unquote load management as they get ready for the Patriot League tournament, because they've already clinched a regular season title and no one's really going to catch them at this point. American and Lafayette, they're going to be fighting for whoever gets to host at least up until the semifinal round. American actually getting the big win at Colgate, which obviously is going to help their cause a little bit in terms of potential tiebreakers.
Well, Rocco, let me ask, I was going to say, Rocco, a potential, it's looking like American or Lafayette at Colgate is probably going to be the Patriot League championship game, barring some crazy upsets. Both those teams won at Colgate this year. Those are Colgate's 2 losses. Could something crazy happen this year, or do you think Colgate was just kind of playing around on Sunday and it's no big deal?
I think they're a little hungover because they celebrated the game before, I believe. But
yes.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, I don't know if it's just going to be American or Lafayette, due to the fact that if you look from second place all the way down to Holy Cross, the whole league is only separated by 4 games. So there's just so much parity after Colgate. It could be a lot of teams. I think actually Lehigh and Boston U have been playing the best lately, and they went to overtime tonight. Boston U hit a game winner at the buzzer in OT. So who knows? I could see any of those 4. I definitely think the service academies and Holy Cross are a step behind. But, yeah, I mean, it's Colgate's to lose.
What is there any chance Holy Cross, a game behind Navy, can jump over them and we get an Army Navy 8-9 game? That's what I want.
You need Holy Cross. Holy Cross finishes at Boston U though, so on paper that's a loss, but we don't play games on paper in the Patriot
League. Colgate will finish up the regular season at Lehigh. This is the final games of the season right there on the screen. These last 5 games coming up here on Saturday. Then we will have a conference tournament bracket sometime Saturday evening in all likelihood. Check out that conference tournament tab up there, by the way, for all of those.
Yeah.
Back over here to Dorman here in the Southern Conference. And, let's just talk about what happened tonight before we go anywhere else.
What do we think of this? Yeah, any opinions on this? Because I think Samford had at least a shot of being looked at. I don't think they would have been selected, but definitely not now. I was not a fan of this. I didn't think it would bother me. It doesn't bother me when you see it in baseball and football at the professional levels. What do you all think? What do you think, Rocco? Did you like this? That Sanford just didn't play anybody?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I got to read up on it. I think
They rested players.
Yeah, I
Why?
think they knew. I knew they finished the season with the Citadel at home, which should be a waxing to wrap up the outright title. They had already clinched a share of the conference title, and they've already clinched the 1 seed. So the 1
Yeah.
seed's already toast. And yeah, chances are they aren't getting in at large. But you're right; it would have been fun to see if they could win the whole thing out. Again, if they lose in the championship game, they're taking probably at least a quad 3 loss, right?
Mhm.
So. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they're
tough.
done.
It's tough.
They're-
Yeah, I think that it's probably just to be ready for the SoCon tournament. It might be in in the big picture, the right thing to do. Sadly,
Yeah. In
I agree
Buckyball,
with you. It
they've
sucks
had
it sucks as a spectator to see that.
Yeah.
Thoughts about the rest of any other thoughts about the rest of the league here, Dorman? I was going to you
Oh.
first, but we kind of got derailed there.
The Mocs have been an interesting story. They'll probably be the 2 or the 3 seed. You'll stay away from Sanford until the championship. Furman, we saw last year, they were darlings in March. I thought they were going to come back strong. I definitely thought they'd be in the top mix of this conference. A little disappointing year for Furman as they brought back some of those pieces from that tournament team that last year that won a game. But I'm with Rocco. I think Sanford just is so much stronger than the rest of the conference. I think it's theirs, but you never know, and that's why we're going to play this conference tournament. It's going to be in Asheville, North Carolina, and it should be some fantastic basketball. We'll see what Sanford brings.
Yep. Regular season wrapping up this.
Yeah.
So regular season
Me
wrapping
too.
up this weekend. These are the 2 games: Sanford at East Tennessee State, Western Carolina, Chattanooga. That will decide the battle for the 2 seed and the 3 seed. Not that it matters too much at the end of the day,
Not much.
but if there is a battle there, that's what it is. Let's jump over to the Southland Conference, where McNeese, Stalika had a close call at Lamar. We kind of circled this game last week as a dangerous game, and it proved to be one, but they found a way to win.
This is clearly a team that cannot afford "quote unquote" load management when you're trying to win every possible game and at least try to make an at-large case. They were dangerously close again, but it seems like they've been walking the high wire in about 3 or 4 different conference games throughout the season. But as Chad likes to say, good teams find a way to win these type of games. And McNeese, again, probably not going to lose again until after Selection Sunday at this rate.
Yeah. Well, Rocco, let's ask this question again. Now they got past that Lamar game. There's no excuse for them losing these last 3 regular season games. There's no excuse for them losing their conference tournament semifinal game. But if they play a Southeastern, they play Lamar, or they play Corpus Christi again in that championship game, and they falter, only 4 losses. But is there a case?
I think they'll definitely get looked at right now in the strength of resume metric. They're 47, so it's a top 50 resume. It's not as bright and shiny as Princeton or Indiana State, who are ranked in the 30s there, but definitely a team you got to look at. I think a loss in that game, it's going to count as a home loss because they're hosting the conference tournament.
It will.
So it's probably going to punt them about 10 resume spots, maybe more. With a loss to any of them, although Corpus Christi's gotten so much better. I love that team right now, and I think Nichols could give them a little test this week. We'll see how that goes. Nichols is 11-4, but yeah, and by and large, I think what's going on in the league is coaches are starting to figure them out and game plan them pretty well. But the talent is still so overwhelming, and I think when McNeese finally gets to the NCAA's, it's going to be a breath of fresh air for that team after grinding through all this conference play to play a team that's less familiar with them. And I think they could really
they are.
I can't wait to see it. I really
would
can't
be
wait to
disappointed if they did not get to the tournament. Like,
I fully expect them to make it. But
Yeah, it would be super disappointing. They are at home. They should be able to win the tournament on their home floor. I don't think they've lost at home all year.
They have
But
not.
God,
not
how
even close.
disappointing would that be if they did not get into the NCAAs? Because this is a team, I'm with you, Rocco. They can win a game in the round of 64, maybe
Yeah.
another one. This is a
They,
damn good team.
they had a war with their regional rival, the Raging Cajuns, at home. They won by 2 there, but in league play, I think Sila's the closest that came to them at 9 points. They beat everybody else by double digits at home. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the rest of the league has a huge mountain to climb if they're going to steal the bid.
Yeah. As far as the rest of the regular season goes, also you want to look at the battle for the 2 seed here. Nichols behind the gun because they've got to play at McNeese still. Corpus Christi's done with McNeese, and you do get the double bye with that 2 seed. The other battle is the battle for the 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots here. Only 8 teams get into this conference tournament, so 2 teams will be eliminated. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Let's see here. Dorman over in the SWAC.
1095 or 1059. Excuse me.
Yes, there was a great game Saturday between Grambling and Southern, but unfortunately, most of us weren't allowed to watch it because it was behind a paywall. This conference is not doing the right thing there. Like, there was probably a lot of us, Griggs and I, wanted to watch this game, but how do you make it so difficult? But hopefully there will be round 3. I'd love to see Grambling play Southern round 3 with the tournament bid on the line. I do actually think they are the 2 strongest teams in the league, but Texas Southern every year finds a way to make the conference championship and usually wins it. So it's not going to be easy. You want the 1 seed between Grambling and Southern between Grambling and Southern because Texas Southern looks like it's going to be the 3. So if you get the 1 seed, you get to stay away from the 2 and the 3 and probably get Alcorn or Bethune-Cookman. So it does matter here who gets the top seed because you want to stay away from Texas Southern as long as possible.
Oh, well, yeah, Texas Southern has been playing well lately. Bethune-Cookman, another team that's playing really well lately.
Yeah.
And this has been exciting to watch Bethune coming on here. I don't know that they're going to quite get there, Griggs, but they've been playing a lot better as well. We've mentioned that a few times here.
Yeah, we have. And God, it would be so much fun to see Grambling win this conference tournament. Fortunately, not behind a paywall. But yeah, Cookman coming on strong.
No, I mean, the SWAC is one of only 1 or 2 conferences that do not have a conference-wide streaming package, so each school controls it. That's why you have some paywall, some not. So, Rocco, you had a thought too?
Yeah, I just think I'm seeing a potential 1-8 quarterfinal between Grambling and Alabama A&M, and I would just be very careful if I'm Grambling in that game because Alabama A&M went to Grambling a couple weeks ago and popped them by 10, and Alabama A&M right now top 75 defense in the last month out of nowhere. They can't play any offense, one of the worst offenses in the country. But again, these teams with sneaky good defenses are the ones that win late in the season. And watch out for the Bulldogs as a team sneaking into one of those last spots.
And if you want to watch out for that Bethune team, they have to go to Grambling and Southern this week. Grambling and Southern hosting both Florida schools for their next 2 games here. Still a whole other week in this conference after this week, though.
Now, before we move on, I think the other question is, how much would you have had to pay to watch Mississippi Valley State finally get off the schneid?
Yes, congratulations to the Delta Devils. Got
Yes.
their first D1 win. We'll get back to that in a little bit here, but they became the last team in D1 to pick up a win. They're probably still on pace, though, to win our centenary award for the worst team in D1,
Yeah.
despite the win. That's how far behind they were.
I believe it was about the same price. And yes, I could have afforded the 1059, but I was so appalled that I refused to pay it on principle. Yeah, it's about a pitcher of beer. I'd rather drink a pitcher of beer.
Stalika Summit League time. Yeah, North Dakota had their moment in the sun, but I think South Dakota State's is taking back over again, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. And we keep wondering, will St. Thomas also pull a potential rabbit out of their hat in Sioux Falls? They're probably a couple years away from being able to do that. So even though South Dakota State, they don't have the star power, they don't have the Mike Dahm anymore, they don't have Baylor Shireman anymore, but somehow they keep finding people to plug in and be in contention this conference year after year.
Yep. and as far, we do have one last pair of games here. South Dakota State does have to go on the road to North Dakota, so it's actually a pretty interesting game tomorrow night, Griggs. If, actually, if North Dakota wins that, they can still win this conference regular season title.
They can, and if they win that one, I think they get the tiebreaker, I believe, or did they split during the year?
Let's pull up here.
South
Dakota State won the first time. So
okay, so yeah, it would be an even split, and then it goes down to the
advanced tiebreakers that we're not going to calculate
right.
on this show.
Yep. South Dakota State, I still think they're the best team in this league. They're also arguably not just one of the more disappointing teams in this league, even though they're the first place team. But this was a team that we were really, or at least I was expecting a lot out of this year, and they just haven't shown out. But that being said, they look like they can finish first, and they've got a really good shot at winning the tournament and getting to the NCAAs despite not winning as much as we thought they would this year, at least not as much as I thought they would.
Quite frankly, I think they've got a real good shot at winning a game in the NCAA tournament, given that they're going to be going to Dayton.
Given that they're going to be going to Dayton, they've got an excellent shot, maybe about as good as anybody.
Rocco, I know you want to talk a little Sun Belt. Let's go over there where.
Oh yeah, I want to hear Rocco talk about the Sun Belt.
James Madison survived at Georgia State tonight. App State took care of Old Dominion, but here we are with these two teams now clearly 1-2. And what do you think about the bubble chances for both these guys, honestly?
Yeah, I'm a little out on Appalachian State getting there. There's too many bad losses, and I know they have the Auburn win, which is fantastic, and the sweep of JMU. But I just think the bad losses outweigh that. They have 3 of them, I believe. Maybe 4.
Four now, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a little too much to stomach. However, the James Madison case is one that is fascinating. I know we've talked about it. Should they get to the Sun Belt final and not have any other losses between now and then, and they actually lose to App State, then they go to the committee and they say, hey, guys, only 2 teams beat us all year. This App State team 3 times and a road loss in Hattiesburg, which is, you're kind of allowed one of those, right? So I think James Madison would be right there to be selected. It'd be really hard, honestly, to leave them out, in my opinion. If they get all the way there, they did have 1 non-D1 win, but I think that path gets them to 29 wins, which would be a record. Should they get that far and then not get picked?
The strength of record, and I know that there's a lot of metrics, and our own J&G has them outside the bubble by a fair margin, but the strength of record at 41 is in the range of teams that get in far more often than not.
Yeah, the really weird thing there is the KPI, the other one listed on the sheet, is 96. And the funny thing about that is the KPI was designed by a Michigan State guy, Kevin. So it's funny how that works out. A team that they beat on the road and that actually got them in this conversation. But I think the committee would kind of look at that as an outlier, like sometimes with the BPI and Mountain West teams, for example, that's an outlier. I think there's plenty of reason to take them, kind of like Princeton. If we get down to the end and so many of these power conference teams just have too many bad marks, whether it's too many losses or horrible scheduling or a combination of all, then these are really nice, safe choices for the committee. I'm really interested to see if it plays out that way.
Yeah.
Everybody has 1 game left. App State hosting Arkansas State, JMU at Coastal Carolina. Obviously, JMU's got to win that game. That's a must.
Coastal's been done for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about teams that have not been done for months, watch out for the Troy Trojans. They're coming off a road sweep against the Louisiana schools.
And Arkansas State's been playing really well. They swept Troy in the last 2 weeks. And I think Arkansas State, you could argue, is playing the second best ball behind JMU in the league.
Yep. So this could be an interesting conference tournament. And there's a lot of parity after those top 4 teams also going all the way down.
And the Cajuns,
probably all to 12 spots. Yeah.
I saw the Cajuns. They're tough. They're not going to be an easy out in that tournament. Plus, Coach Bob Marlin loves playing in Pensacola. He's a Pensacola legend, and he helped get that tournament into that city. They've won it. They won it there. Was it last year or the year before? So anyway, the Cajuns are going to be really tough in Pensacola.
Greg's last regular conference of the night is the WAC, where the Lopes had a rough week, to say the least. 0-2.
And Well, I'm just going to go straight to Rocco. Does this sink them? Are they done without the auto bid? This is not what they needed.
I would say more likely that they're probably toast. It's unfortunate because we all
very
know
unfortunate. Like I
think it was the Abilene one really did them in. I think with Tarleton they might have been okay, but Abilene's pretty far out of bounds. They're 254 in net. That's not getting anywhere near quad 3. That's going to be stuck in quad 4, and I thought it was really good news for them when San Diego State was announced as the 14th overall team and a 4 seed by the actual committee. That was one of the bright spots for teams on the West Coast, including them. But now I just don't know. I would like to think they'll still get looked at closely because they are clearly a darn good team. But
they are, and
let's not forget. Oops, wrong screen. Let's not forget they still have a very tough road test at California Baptist next weekend to end the regular season. So
and if you go back to the profile just real quick, and I realize they're not the only team in the conference, but prior this time last week, we're looking at a road loss at Seattle, which wasn't bad, a really competitive game against a South Carolina team that we've been having up around the 5-4 protected seed range, and nothing else. A win over San Diego. Their profile just got torpedoed with it, maybe not with the loss at Tarleton, although it didn't help, but the loss at Abilene Christian. And I realized that I know that that's sort of how it works. It's a circumstantial disadvantage. Unlike the teams in the power conferences and in the multi-bid leagues, you don't have the chance to build your resume in January, February, and March. All you can do is maintain what you did in November and December. But this is a good team, and you hate to see a good team get torpedoed to the point to where if they don't win a tournament, they're not getting in. That's my final thought, by the way. We don't need
okay. There we go. Like we said, Greg Kane hosting Rio Grande Valley and hosting SFA this week for a pair of home games that they better win if there's any outside shot there. Real quick, let's see here. We've got Chicago State. Their season's already done, as we mentioned. So there they are. We mentioned it for one last time this year.
What's up, guys?
Let's go to some. Let's go to our quick check-in on our mythical conferences. The Beehive, where Utah still actually has already wrapped that up. The Beehive is over. Unless something happens in the postseason, we will allow the conference tournament play to come into play.
Or NCAA tournament. If BYU tournament. And Utah or Utah State, they could end up playing.
So when we get to our
it's going to be great when Utah arrives at the NIT with their bright and shiny Beehive trophy.
Yes.
There's some jealous teams out there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about an automatic bid, though. We did confirm, Griggs, that the Front Range champion gets an automatic bid, and there is Wyoming. Nobody has them in their fields, but they are supposed to be an NCAA tournament team, are they not?
Yeah, they're supposed to be. Some people are going to say that Colorado State has the most wins, and that's who's going to get it. But the way the standings look, it should be Wyoming's bid.
Huge week for Wyoming, though. A pair of Front Range games at Colorado State, home against Air Force. So
they can do it.
They sweep that.
They sweep that, yeah.
They're supposed to be in.
They sweep that. We got to get them in the CBI.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Over in the back range, New Mexico is still taking care of it, but we actually got a back range going on as we record this. Arizona tried to move into a first place tie if they pick up this win. Dorman, I know you're excited about that. You being an Arizona alum, you ready for that back range trophy?
Huge. Arizona's up about 40 almost at half on ASU.
I haven't even turned it on yet.
Again, they beat them by 45 last time.
Well, they're going to try and break that.
That's insane.
Washington State on pace for the auto bid out of the Top Range Conference. I think we have an auto bid there. But we got a lot of Top Range action in this week, so we'll have to keep an eye on this as we go through our video notebooks next week. Lots of interesting games coming up here.
And I'll mention, since we don't have a show next week, I'm planning on visiting the Top Range next Thursday for the Apple Cup. So.
Oh well, I mean, we're gonna have shows. Yeah.
I've never been to a game in Pullman, and it's probably our last chance to see the Apple Cup there. If they end up playing each other, it'll probably be a neutral game. So, got to do it this year.
How do you get to Pullman?
I'm gonna fly to Spokane and ride with a buddy down for an hour and a half. The flights to Pullman are insanely expensive.
Do you get one of
Yeah,
these for
well,
winning the top range, maybe, or something like
Yeah.
that? I don't
So I'll let you know when I get there.
know. Well, let's go to our Hoops HD under the radar top 10. Our last 100 Hoops HD under the radar top 10 of the season. We've got a lot of honorable mentions this week. That always happens when Rocco's on the show for some reason.
Yeah.
But
That's weird.
not quite making the top 10. Our College of Charleston, Yale, Vermont, Tarleton, Akron, UC San Diego,
Oh,
Hofstra, and Oakland. None of them quite made the top 10.
man.
But
I voted for someone that I was hoping that would get an honorable mention.
At number 10, we had UC Irvine. The Eaters did have the loss, but still staying in their top number 10.
Yeah.
At number 9, we had Samford. A couple of these votes were before the game. A couple people
Yeah.
did get to change their, including myself and Rocco, changed our votes after. Barely in the top 10, though. Maybe we would fall out of it if all of us had voted after they lost tonight. At number 8, we've got the Princeton Tigers.
Ooh, yeah, we went back up.
Number 7, it's Drake, who is right as we record this in triple overtime.
Yeah, with
They're
UIC.
up by 4 points late in triple overtime. Wow. At number 6, we have McNeese. We talked about
Ooh,
them
that's
and
low.
their chances. Yeah, we thought we'd get a
A
little
little
higher.
surprised they'd be a little higher than that.
Number 5, James Madison. There we go. We were talking about their at-large chances, and there's still 4 more teams better than them.
Yeah.
Appalachian State. There they are.
Oh, Ah,
They do have the
the
Super
league is
JMU.
dancing.
yeah.
At number 3, it was the Lopes, still hanging in there pretty high. At number 2, the Trees, Indiana State.
Oh,
only
wow.
at number 2.
Okay. Interesting.
Who's that leave for number 1?
I'm trying to figure
Our
it out.
final Hoops HD under the radar top 10, number 1, and the season finale for this year is
Chicago
Mississippi
State.
Valley State broadcasters Caleb
Wow.
Brunson and Andre Williams.
Yes.
And that will be, and that will be good. That's down for that first win. First ball, we storm the court. And we're storming the court. We're storming the court. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Congratulations,
Oh my God.
guys! You
Oh, they
win
went
under
on.
the radar for 2024.
We got to get those guys on. They were in it. We improved to 1-25. We're 15 games out of first in the SWAC. It was just
Maybe I should have
awesome.
spent $10.59 after all.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Let's go to
Alright.
final thoughts. Salika, you're on
We'll
the
try
screen.
and
You're
tweet
first.
that to those guys. Yeah.
It seems to be a little bit of a sad mark that we're getting towards the end of the regular season, but the good news is we're only 4 days away from opening Puppet Bunker 2024.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that this year. We decided not to do that.
No, we're doing it. Absolutely. Salika, go ahead. Anything up more?
Oh, that's pretty much it.
Okay,
We're just
that's
looking
okay.
forward to the bells and whistles for
Uh,
the Puppet Bunker this year.
Dorman, you're up.
I say it every year, but Griggs reminds me that the selection committee is always watching this show and always listening. So I need
Yes.
to remind them.
Yes.
We've gone through a lot of teams tonight. I'm not going to mention them all, but some are mad. It's James Madison, the Ivy League, the loser of the championship, Grand Canyon, Indiana State, McNeese. These teams have had excellent seasons. I don't need to see the mediocre middle of the ACC and the Big Ten get these 10, 11, and 12 seeds. I've seen it. They lose plenty of games. Give these teams that had excellent seasons with excellent players the opportunity to play on the big stage in the tournament. They deserve it. They've earned it. It's not their fault. The schedule, the strength of schedule gives them some crazy ranking. If you watch the games like a lot of us do and a lot of the people watching these videos do, you know these teams are excellent. They're extremely well coached. Enough of the mediocre teams that lose 2 out of 3 games in the Big Power Championship, in the Big Power Conferences. Give these teams a chance in the tournament.
I agree with you 100%. Rocco.
Beautiful. Yeah, I would just like to go back to the SoCon. We had a lot of thoughts and a couple more to share. So Samford, of course, goes in as the number 1 seed. I would just say for them, Wofford gave them a big problem in the first matchup. They only beat them by 2 at home. And, of course, bench some guys tonight, get killed by Wofford again. Same thing kind of happened with Mercer. They lost to Mercer just recently, and the first matchup was tight. For whatever reason, those two, even though they're down in the 6 through 8 range in the seeds, if Sanford plays them in the quarters or at some point in the tournament, watch out. That's big time upset alert, just matchup wise for the Bulldogs. And then Vontarius Woolbright. I mean, come on. Another triple double tonight, his third triple double of the year. He has just been unbelievably the most important player on any team in America to his team. And I don't remember the last time Western Carolina won over 20 games. They won their 21st game tonight. They're definitely in contention to win this SoCon tournament. And I think Vontarius Woolbright deserves All-American consideration. That's not an exaggeration. So please, if you have a ballot, vote Vontarius Woolbright for All-American, please.
Do it. Griggs, why don't you finish off the show?
I not so much thoughts, just some announcements. This is our last Under the Radar show. I can't believe it. It's probably, out of all the podcasts we do, the one that I selfishly and personally enjoy the most. But I enjoy what we're about to start doing even more. It's the nightly championship video notebooks. I don't know if we have a crazy stunt or scheme that we're going to do this year, but we always do something, and it's always fun.
We have something. We have something planned.
Oh yeah, we do have something planned. Okay. The next bit of news: big statement win for Drake tonight, going to UIC, the big city in Chicago, and getting the 107-105 win in triple overtime. Boy, are they on a tear.
Well, I'll tell you, they're a little disappointing. This was one of our last chances we may get all season for a quadrupler, and we did not get it tonight.
We haven't had one all year. Yeah,
No,
so if we're going to get one, it's going to come during championship week, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess on that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. On behalf of David Dorman, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, and at Rocco Miller 8, David Griggs, John Salika, I'm Chad Sherwood. We will be back tomorrow night. We're doing a bracket rundown show, and then join us beginning Sunday night, every night from there on out until Selection Sunday. We are going to be doing our Championship Week video notebooks. So Under the Radar may be gone. We're not going away, unfortunately. But thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon.